Right now, as you're sitting there, the trillions of cells in your body are like these incredibly busy cities, always moving stuff in and out. Sometimes it's easy, like floating downstream, but other times, it's a real fight, a constant struggle against the current. And that uphill battle, well, that's what we're going to break down today.
So, cellular transport really comes in two main flavors. On one side, you've got passive transport. This is the easy stuff, Just going with the flow from a crowded area to a less crowded one. It's the downhill route. No effort needed. But on the other side, that's where things get interesting. We've got active transport. And this is our focus, the process of fighting the current, this constant uphill struggle that is absolutely essential for life.
So what exactly makes this an uphill battle? Why does the cell have to work so hard for this kind of transport? What is it even fighting against?
Okay, so active transport is basically the cell shoving molecules from a place where there are very few into a place where they're already packed in super tight. Seriously, just imagine trying to cram one more t-shirt into a suitcase that is already bursting at the seams. Yeah, it's not going to happen by itself, right? You need to put in some serious effort, and for a cell, that effort costs energy.
And that, of course, brings up the next big question. If this whole process is so demanding, where does the cell get the power to pay this constant energy bill? What's the currency it's using?
To really get a handle on the energy bill, we first have to see just how tough the job is. See, the cell isn't just fighting against a difference in numbers, it's also fighting an electrical battle. The inside of a living cell is usually negatively charged compared to the outside. So this combo, a difference in concentration and an electrical charge, is what we call the electrochemical gradient. It's the super complex terrain that these little cellular machines have to conquer, and it's exactly why they need so much energy.
And here it is, the cell's universal power source, a molecule called ATP. You can just think of it like a tiny, fully charged, rechargeable battery. Whenever the cell needs to do some hard work, like forcing molecules uphill, it spends an ATP molecule. It breaks it down, releasing a perfect little packet of energy to get the job done. So how does the cell actually use that little ATP battery? Well, let's zoom in on one of the most famous, most hard-working machines in the entire cell. I want you to think of it as a relentless bouncer at the club door of the cell membrane, the sodium-potassium pump.
This cellular bouncer has a super specific two-part job that it just does over and over and over. First up, in one go, it grabs 3 sodium ions from inside the cell and forcefully kicks them out, no questions asked.
Then, in the exact same motion, it turns around, grabs 2 potassium ions from outside the cell, and lets them in. Now, this isn't random. This precise 3-for-2 trade is absolutely critical for everything.
The whole thing works like a perfectly choreographed dance. It's amazing. First, 3 sodium ions from the inside lock into the pump. Then, boom, ATP provides the energy, causing the pump to literally change its shape and flip open to the outside. In this new form, it doesn't really like sodium anymore, so it lets them go. But it's now a perfect fit for potassium ions, so 2 of them hop on. This makes the pump snap right back to its original shape, facing inward, and it releases the potassium inside the cell. Then the whole cycle just starts all over again.
Now here's where it all comes together. This type of pump is called an antiporter, which is just a fancy way of saying it moves 2 different things in opposite directions. And because it's constantly pushing out 3 positive charges for every 2 it brings in, it creates a net electrical imbalance across the membrane. So it's not just a bouncer, it's also like a tiny generator, actively charging the cell's battery and keeping that vital electrochemical gradient humming along.
I know this all sounds pretty tiny and abstract, but getting this molecular process to work perfectly, it's completely non-negotiable. If you disrupt this microscopic pump, you don't just cause a small problem. We're talking about a matter of life and death.
And this brings us to a very serious, real-world consequence. You've probably heard about this in medical dramas, but this is 100% real biology. Why can something as simple as a potassium injection be fatal? The answer lies directly with our hard-working little pump.
Here's the devastating chain reaction. A sudden, massive flood of potassium on the outside of the cells completely short-circuits that carefully maintained electrochemical gradient. And that electrical difference, that's what your nerve and muscle cells use to send signals. Without it, the signal is just gone. The heart muscle cells can't get the electrical command to contract anymore, and the result is that the heart stops beating.
This deadly example just goes to show you how critical this system is. And it's not just about sodium and potassium, not by a long shot. Your body is filled with all sorts of different active transport pumps, each one fighting its own little uphill battle.
For instance, the calcium pump is absolutely essential for every single muscle contraction you make. Each pump is a specialized worker, vital for a different function in your body.
So if there's one thing to take away, it's this. Right now, as you're watching, trillions of these tiny molecular machines are burning through energy, fighting against the current, all just to keep you alive. Their constant, invisible work is what allows your nerves to fire and your heart to beat. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other invisible battles are being won inside you right this second?